Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and today's episode is cut from another podcast of which I am the co-host, The Soul of Enterprise, which is also sponsored by Sage. The Soul of Enterprise is dedicated to belief that business has a spiritual, though not necessarily religious, component. I hope you enjoy this excerpt. If you do, please visit www.thesoulofenterprise.com for more.
You know, whenever you make a documentary that is really about ideas, it's not exactly about cats or, Tiger King. It's a little bit heady. It takes a little bit of effort to get into it. I think that when we began work on the documentary and development, we wanted to make something that really appealed to everyone, no matter what your background is. And so we started with global problems like global warming, ocean acidification, like lack of protein, animal welfare, lack of access to high quality healthcare at like affordable costs, something that we all have in common as challenges. And then we wanted to see if there were innovators out there who had solutions and whether they were operating in the market and they could do something at scale to solve these problems. And if they were not, then what was the barriers to entry? What could we do to help empower these imaginative innovators to attack these problems and really solve them?
And the film focuses on, I guess, 4 different companies or industries or problems. The Just, who's the alternative meat, the Center for Negative Carbon Emissions, Regenerative Medicine, and the Catalina Sea Ranch. And the story then weaves together around what they propose as these innovative solutions, but then also goes back and forth with the regulations and the challenges that these folks face. And I think you've done a pretty fair job of showing both the pluses and the minuses. I didn't find this to be hugely skewed one way or the other. Probably others might not think that. Maybe that's just confirming my biases. I suppose it's very possible. But is that something you strive for, a balance? Because it comes across to me in the film anyway.
Yeah. When we approach documentary film, we are interested in the question. So I think you see in a lot of documentary films someone taking a perspective. And for them, it's all about balancing that perspective with other perspectives. But we really try to be open and curious for the audience because we are stewards for the audience in this quest for knowledge. And so for us, it's really about understanding. And so when it comes to balance, that's something that's very important because you don't achieve understanding without really getting a sense of the whole.
And what I thought was really neat about it, you also had some experts, Alex Tarabach, Tom Bell, Clark Neely, Adam Thier. Adam Thier has been a guest on the show already, talking about permissionless innovation. But you also had folks who were regulators who you interviewed as well. And I thought that was an interesting balance. Tell me a little bit about those conversations that you had with those folks before we get into the meat, if you will. A little foreshadowing there of the documentary.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of meat there. So the one way to think about these ideas is how they flow through the vehicles that are people and personalities. And so you have, innovators and entrepreneurs or scholars who are working on innovative ideas that are going to be spun out of the university. And there's sort of a personality, a way of looking at things, a hierarchy of values there. And then you have regulators who are, going to Washington, D.C. To do good. And very often when we begin with a very ideological perspective, we sort of just look at one of these two groups as Mr. Bad Guy and the other one as Mr. Good Guy. And, in fact, really, you have a lot of people following incentives. And in fact, for innovation to operate, there needs to be a regulatory structure. And so these two disparate personalities or warring parties in some framework actually really need to be collaborative with one another. And so when we talked to regulators, we did not find the story of the evil regulator who's just sitting up there in front of his computer trying to figure out all the ways that they can make the lives miserable of innovators. In fact, we found that a lot of times regulators are constrained by laws that are passed by Congress and signed by the executive in certain ways where they're not able to pivot, even if they see that there is a pivot. We also see that due to the very nature of regulation, which was kind of conceived in this industrial revolution type, industrial factory economy, that they're really not incentivized to take risks along with the innovators. They're incentivized to have no risk, because if they approve a product and something bad happens, they're blamed. If they approve a product and nothing happens, or something good happens, they get no credit. And so that's just really not a viable system to get them the information that they need to make them effective collaborators with the innovators, and to really allow change at the pace of a digital economy.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.